Daily File, new claims about the secretive inner workings of the Church of Scientology and David Miscavige, the man who has been its leader for the past 30 years. While the church has had its share of critics, this time the attacks come from someone who was very close to the story, Ron Miscavige, David's father. Earlier, I spoke with him about his new book, Ruthless, Scientology, My Son David Miscavige, and Me. Ron, thank you very much for being here.
I appreciate you asking me.
How long were you in Scientology?
From the time I got in, which was about 1970, it would have been about 42 years.
Wow.
But I was on staff for 26 and a half years.
You were in this so-called C organization, which is the elevated part of Scientology.
Yes, that would be the equivalent of a priesthood, let's say, in the Catholic religion.
You're not supposed to have children in Sea Org, and you enforce certain rules. But did you know L. Ron Hubbard?
Never met him.
Okay.
No.
So you got involved, and you got your son David involved.
Absolutely.
When he was how old?
9.
Okay, and so you said that by the time he got to be, what, 12, 13, he was studying Scientology almost exclusively?
Yeah, he was like a phenomenon. He took to this like a fish to water.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about the religion as a whole, because it's obviously controversial. It's done a lot of people a lot of good. And one of its core messages is if you have a negative influence in your life, you can shut that negative influence out,
right, and
focus on the positive and move forward.
Yes.
However, it's controversial because you write in your book about abusing people.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, the actual philosophy of Scientology is not something I'm against. Like, I don't want to condemn it, and I don't condemn it. Because when you first get in, and we're talking about at the bottom of the bridge, the whole thing is called the Bridge to Total Freedom. But at that bottom level, you take courses and you do drills and exercises on communication. You can get counseling, or we call auditing, that will help you with your interpersonal relationships. And
they have files on everybody who's done these auditing sessions.
Absolutely.
So John Travolta, Tom Cruise.
Absolutely. Not even a question about it.
What about, there's something called the hole, where they put people who they believe need discipline.
Yeah.
And according to your book, physical beatings are a part of being in the hole.
That I don't know about. I do know this, that the people in the hole would spend all day confessing their sins, and some of the people in there, if they weren't getting what they thought was the sins out of the person, they would resort to physical things. Is
it true if you get sent to the hole, you have to clean the floor with your tongue?
I heard that one guy did clean the bathroom with his tongue, yes. I didn't see this, but I heard it from reliable sources, though.
Did you ever go to David and say, what are you doing?
Believe me when I tell you, that would have been such an improper question, I would have never said it.
Why?
You just didn't do it. He was like the supreme leader. You didn't challenge him on anything.
Your own son?
My own son. Listen, he called me Ron. He didn't call me Dad. He sent me presents, and he'd send me a card to say Dad, but in person, it was Ron. When I was there, I was a staff member. I was not his father, except on my birthday. And truthfully, he'd usually give me a nice spread from a very nice restaurant in L.A., sent down to where we were, give me nice presents. I appreciated that, but I would never challenge him, ever. And I'm going to tell you, he wasn't always that way, Megan. Mm-hmm. When he was a kid, he was a lovable little kid. I mean, he had a great sense of humor. We got along great, and he was a smart kid. We would pull jokes at times. He went from that, like this, all right, from Dr. Jekyll into Mr. Hyde.
Let me ask you, because you admit that you abused your first wife.
Absolutely. I have no excuses.
That you punched her.
Yes.
Repeatedly.
No, not repeatedly, and never in the face, or never like beating her up like has been said about me.
Well, how many times did you?
I don't know, maybe all the time. Over a 10-year period. Would happen maybe once a month or something like that. I know what my daughter said. They also said that I beat them up with my fists, which is a complete lie.
Well, what is punching?
I never punched my daughters.
Just your wife?
In the arm or in the back. Look, I regret it. I don't know what to say to you. I'm not making excuses for it. It was a horrible thing. When I got in Scientology, the day that I got in Scientology, I realized I had what's called a case. I realized I was dramatizing things that I saw when I was a kid growing up in the cold region. There was never any touching her.
So they discouraged that. Scientology discouraged that kind of abuse.
Absolutely.
And after having been in Scientology for 40+ years, you decided to leave. And the word you use is to escape.
That's correct.
Why did you have to escape?
Megan, you cannot walk out that gate. Here's the life I was living. If you wanted to send a letter to somebody, you had to let the envelope open with the stamp on it, and you'd send it to security. They would read it. If it was okay, they'd seal it and send it out. If it wasn't, you'd get it back and it'd tell you, you can't say these things.
Where were you living?
On a compound.
So everything is controlled?
Everything is controlled. You don't have a telephone. You go through a switchboard operator. If you were to make a call, there's another person listening on the other end of the call. When my brother died and my nephew Gerard told me about it, I had Crystal Simmons listening on the extension. When my nephew told me, my dad's dead. God damn. You couldn't go off the base to get a pair of underwear, go to Walmart.
So how did you escape?
Well, it's a hell of a story, I got to tell you, because we planned it for about 6 months. And my biggest cover on it was the fact that I was 76 years old and I was David's father. Nobody would have expected me to escape. That Sunday morning, which was March 25th, 2012, I went to a remote gate. There was 2 gates. One was the main booth where the security was, and then there was one a little further down where they just had a camera there to see who you were, and you pressed the button, and if they recognize you, they may ask, where are you going? What are you doing? I went to that, pressed the button, and on the way over to there, there was 2 security guards on duty. There was one guy who was in our galley who was eating breakfast, and he had what they called the chase car, which is used to go after anybody if they would try to escape. I know. They're
going to chase you down?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like a prisoner, escape.
Like a prisoner, that's right. So now, and I know Jurgen was in the main booth. So I drive past the galley, and I saw that the car was out there. By the time I got to the gate, believe me when I tell you, my heart was in my throat. I hit the buzzer. He didn't even ask me who I was because he was used to me going across. He opened up the gate. I slowly moved out. I said, Becky, we're turning left. I tromped on that accelerator and down the road about a mile. I must have been going 75 by the time I got there. If I turned right, I'd go to Route 10. That would take me to L.A. If I went straight, I'd go to Route 60, which would go to L.A. If I turned left, I'd be going into town. I figured he's going to figure I'm taking these highways. So I turned left to go into town, went into the boondocks, and we were free.
Fascinating, Ron. Thank you very much for coming on and telling your story. Again, the book is called Ruthless by Ron Miscavige, father of David Miscavige, head of Scientology. All the best to you.